So today we have a Echo chainsaw. It is a CS-341. The owner of this chainsaw said that it wasn't running right, so they bought a new carburetor for it and tried to install. Still wasn't running right, and didn't want to mess with it, so they brought it over to me. So what we're going to do real quick after I brush off some nasties on here is go over and see what exactly is wrong. So a couple things I've done so far. When I first started it was running like it was on choke, so I did take off the muffler just to see if the spark arrestor was clogged. It wasn't. So from there I decided to take off the filter and see what exactly was going on in there, and it was very wet. But I blew it out and tried running it without the filter on just to see if that was the problem. Maybe the filter was just plugged. That still wasn't the problem. So now what I'm going to do is I looked at the carburetor screws and kind of pushed them in to see what it starts off with. When you first put a new carburetor on, most of the time they're not tuned. Sometimes they will be. If you buy like the one that's specially made for your chainsaw or whatever you're replacing it on, it probably will need a little bit of tuning. It won't be much, if anything. It'll probably run just fine, but just to kind of make it run at its peak performance, I like to adjust it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is after I get done, I have to put the chain brake or the chain brake back on, because you don't want to tune this without the chain on there or the blade or the bar either. Technically with the chainsaw you also want to be using it and kind of tune it, because it could be running lean. It will just rev up no problem, but then when you actually go to cut wood, it won't, because there's not enough fuel, or maybe it's too rich. Most of the time it's too lean though. But let me go ahead and finish cleaning this up. I want to bring you on, and I will bring you back when it's all put on. Okay, so I decided to go over something real quick because it might be useful to some people. So the bar, it's definitely missing its cleaner days, but it's not bad. Obviously there's a up and a down to it. So most people assume that you probably can't put a bar on upside down, but the bar wears in different ways. So if the bar is upside down, it's completely fine. It just might be, extending its life a little bit. Does it look weird? Yeah. Does it run fine? Yeah. It's if you notice a little bit of wear on the surgeon side of your bar, you just flip it over and you can get a couple more cuts out of there. So I want to bring that up. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put the bar on and the chain, and then I'm going to show how to tighten it. You're not missing too much. What you do want to remember when putting on a chain is how the orientation of the teeth go. I don't know how well you're going to see that, but you want to make sure that the curved part is facing away from the chainsaw. Okay, so didn't miss too much. You just put the bar on. There's just a little post, put it on there. You put the chain on first, put the teeth through the clutch, and then cinch it down. It's not very tight right now. So here's the thing about doing tension on the chainsaw. You want to, or the tension on the chain, you ask anyone what their preference is, whether they're a person that just cuts firewood, whether they're just a person that does this professionally, loggers, whatever they want, wherever they are, you're going to get different answers between everyone. This is how I do it. I put it on a little tight, not very tight, so I have some leeway. And if you think about it, when you're cutting, what's happening? You're pushing down most of the time, and the bar is going to be flexing up. So when I tighten it, I pull on the bar as far as I can up, and look at the chain. This is actually really good. I want to have, it could be a little looser actually. Let's loosen it. Yeah, there we are. And then once you're done, lift it up again and tighten it up, and that's all you have to do. Okay, so just like I said, I tightened it down. I pulled up on the bar. The chain, the teeth, when you pull up on it a little bit, the bottom area or the bottom section of the tooth is just barely not touching it, or you can see that it just touches the very top of it. That's how I am going to like it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the air filter cover on and the air filter, and then we'll go ahead and start tuning it. Okay, so everything is tight. Air filter cover is on now. So now that we're going to tune, like I said, when I first got this, I noticed that it was running like it was on choke. When I was looking at the turns of the carburetor, usually they're 1 out, maybe 1.5. I've noticed the smaller they are, the closer, the less turns it is. When I counted, when I was turning it back in, there were 5. So it's a little out of tune. It was explaining the spitting. It was just sending so much fuel in there, I just couldn't even bother to keep up. So I'm going to have to do this probably off camera, unfortunately, because of ventilation problems. But to tune a carburetor, first you have to get to the low. The low is always the screw closest to the intake. At that point, you turn that one in all the way, maybe do like 1 screw out, and then the high, same thing, all the way, 1 screw out. It's easier when you first get it started to when you hold down the throttle all the way, start it. It probably will run. So once it's running, it'll probably run pretty nasty, maybe coughing, spitting, not running at all, who knows. Just keep on turning the screw out until you hear it really get fast. Like the RPMs would be 10,000, 12,000, 8,000, whatever the max RPM of the machine is. And then keep going until it starts to sputter. And once it sputters, turn it back in until it starts to barely get to that max RPM. You don't want it to be so high that it's maxing itself out all the time. You want to have just a little bit lower, and that's going to favor on the rich side. And then you let go of the throttle, and you do the same thing for idle. Idle is a little different though, because when you start to when you want to start screwing it in, and then usually the RPM start to rise. And with chainsaws, you don't really want to see too much chain skip, or I forget the exact term, but the chain should be pretty much it shouldn't be moving at all. So once you get to that point where the chain is moving, you start to richen it up. And then once you start getting to a point when it has not a bog, but you could tell that the motor is no longer spinning the chain. It's not too rich. It's not pumping blue smoke out of the exhaust. At that point, you're pretty much done. You might want to rev it up one more time just to kind of go over the high screw again, because the low does affect the high. The high maybe need to push it in maybe another quarter turn in. It needs to lean it up a little bit usually. So it could be fine. It just depends on your carburetor. But I'll go ahead and bring you back once it's tuned. Okay, so we're outside now. We're on a trusty 70-gallon chainsaw tuning barrel. And like I said, we're going to go for the high. I'm going to twist it out and then in. I want to get it screaming and then a little richer, and then go to the low. And I'm going to make sure the chain doesn't, it just kind of barely skips. So let's go ahead and get it done. Make sure to turn it on, that's always important. Hold the trigger down and pull. Okay, well, should be about it. As you can tell, the oiler is working pretty good. I'm going to let it run for a little bit longer, but from the looks of it, this is pretty good. I'm going to make sure to plug this. Looks like it's new. I'm going to clean it just to make sure. Get some more of this, this nasty stuff off of it, so he has something that's a little cleaner. And that should be about it. Have any questions? Let me know. You'll see you heard the engine bogged down a little bit, but yeah, looks like it's running good. So yeah, comment if you have anything to add or have any questions. If not, then subscribe and have a good rest of your day.